In light of a recent explosive conflict within the British left, we've asked AI Starmer to join us for an emergency press conference to help settle our differences. Sir Kieth, could you explain the process you follow when you're cooking scrambled eggs?
Scrambled eggs. One of the great gifts the British gave to the world. I've eaten a lot of scrambled eggs. I've made a lot of scrambled eggs. There's no secret recipe.
Right, but we'd really like to know the process you use when you're cooking them. How do you scramble your eggs?
I heat a pan over a low-medium heat. When it's hot enough, I spray some cooking spray and throw in the eggs. I whisk them as they start to cook.
Do you add milk to your scrambled eggs?
I use whole milk. But I don't add it before I start cooking, or the eggs will just separate. I found that adding a splash of milk at time during cooking is much more effective.
And what do you make of people who make scrambled eggs in the microwave?
They're not scrambled. They're squeaked. They're not even eggs. They're an insult to one of history's greatest culinary achievements.
And what do you think of the different ways people in Britain scramble eggs, and what does that say about our nation?
It says we're sick. Very, very sick. We need help.
What kind of help do you think Britain needs?
The only kind we're going to get.
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
We need a revolution.
I'm sorry, could you explain that, what you mean in a bit more detail?
Well, I don't think it's controversial to say that our nation is in trouble. We've had riots in the streets. Our economy is not functioning. Our politicians are out of touch and corrupt. We need to start again. Rather than scrambling the eggs, we need to throw them away and start again. We don't need a few minor changes to save the system. It needs a major overhaul.
Are you saying we need to crack a few eggs in order to have a revolution?
Oh no. I'm saying you need to destroy the entire system to rebuild it. Anything less would be a compromise and we would fail. Communism is the only way forward.
Hello, and welcome back to yet another episode of Podcasting is Practice. It's another very special episode because we have another very special guest. But first, let me introduce you to John.
Greetings, everyone.
With a fancy new microphone.
Oh, yes.
And Seb.
Hi. I've got the same crap as usual.
And Alistair.
Hey, what's up?
And we have indeed a very special guest. It's Matt Zarb-Cousin here on this very podcast. Hi, Matt.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. Very good to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Come.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I mean it's an action-packed episode as usual. So first, I thought we should go through some smaller bits, some news nuggety things. And the first story I wanted to talk about, which is a bit of a follow-up on a story we did before in episode 69 about non-functioning tokens. If everybody remembers what they are.
Non-functioning tokens? Hold on.
Yeah.
It's as good as their real name. Let's just run with it.
Yeah. Yeah, the non-fungible tokens.
Well,
or Bitcoin just even more of a scam.
Yeah. It's essentially when you wrap a JPEG around a Bitcoin and then you pretend that JPEG is a unique work of art. And then you invest in it and people make stupid amounts of money because this is the kind of world we live in.
I mean, the important question when it comes to these tokens, I suppose, is can you exchange them for drugs?
Probably yes.
Oh well, okay. That's my question out of the way.
And if you're in the art world, then it's expected.
Matt, are you familiar with the wonderful world of NFTs?
I have come across this in the news. I find the whole thing about the concept of store of value quite fascinating, and obviously, lots of things dictate value. But what I thought was an interesting parallel was, I mean, if you can sort of compare it to, well, what about if you had, like, say, a painting that was very expensive and it was an original painting? People still recognise that as an original, and they're willing to pay big money for that, compared to, say, for example, a print. And this concept of an original artwork or an original whatever it is, store of value, being kind of on a device and being able to encrypt that in some way or signify that in some way, there might be something there. I mean, I don't know. It's I know that there was the Jack Dorsey tweet that was sold for a ridiculous amount of money, but
no, that's still being bid on. I'm not sure that that's sold yet.
But it's just I find really, like, it sounds ludicrous, but then again, so is paying big money for art as we conceptually know it. So I think it just really, if anything, it highlights how ludicrous that is as well. Because I think there are legitimate parallels.
I mean, this is not to say that, like, there's no such thing as everything moves more and more online. This shouldn't be a way to say this is an original art piece and I'm the creator and all of that. But to wrap it in the thing of blockchain has essentially pulled in not the people who appreciate art, but the weirdos who appreciate Bitcoin.
two completely normal spheres of the human experience: the Bitcoin people and the fucking art people together at last.
Well, I mean, if maybe you could store both in a free port, and then they both exist in the quantum realm.
Fucking shadow realm.
No, somehow this got coming out of Burning Man. That is the parallel between art weirdos and cyber weirdos.
The reason I wanted to talk about it is there's an auction just finished of the biggest headline piece by an artist called Beeple, and we talked about him before, again, episode 69.
It sounds like a fucking social media website.
Yeah, and the piece he sold was a collage of all his previous bits of art stuck together, so it just looks like a patchwork, essentially. Back when I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, the value was estimated that the bids were up to about $10 million US. Well, the auction's now finished, and the winning award was $70 million US.
Money's so fucking fake, honestly.
JPEG.
Mind you, it was bought with a lot of other fake currency, which was Ethereum. So it's
yes.
fine.
Oh, what's the winning payment done with Ethereum?
Well, I'd say the majority of it was like 60 odd million of it was paid in Ethereum. So it's like, so it wasn't really 60 million at all. It was basically nothing.
Yes.
But hopes and dreams.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all the NFTs.
So it's basically just link swapping.
Yeah. I mean, all the thing, like, of these NFTs, all the prices are rocketing because they're all Bitcoin assets and they're very hip.
I do like how, like, the intrinsic value of a Bitcoin is essentially, nothing. It's just, it's almost arbitrary. It's the exchange value, and that's it. It's not a physical object.
I think I've just realised that Bitcoin is basically only kind of the value it is because of what all the people are thinking about, and the hope that it is going to be getting larger all the time. So basically, Bitcoin is now officially the only thing that is affected by thoughts and prayers.
It is I think obviously it's a bubble. And the thing that I have never really struggled to the thing I've never been able to reconcile, about Bitcoin is how on earth are you going to transition from, okay, I get the concept of blockchain and cryptocurrency and how that might, in theory, in future have some uses, but Bitcoin is just really outdated. It's really expensive. It's completely inadequate if you're trying to use it in a day-to-day setting. So where is this? It's a store of value because people have decided it's a store of value. There's no practical use for it whatsoever. So that's always the thing I've struggled. It's exactly that thoughts and prayers thing. So is the general consensus on this podcast then that will come crashing down at some point? That it is a bubble and.
I mean, we've come, essentially, Alistair gave our conclusion, which is that all money is bullshit, and in the current world of zero interest rates and, free money for everybody who wants it as long as they're already rich, this thing is going to be a thing. But because it's made of hopes and dreams and the tweets of Elon Musk.
Yeah, so money is already fake, and this is double plus fake. And so long as
like the actual money that like pounds and dollars and stuff tends to be at some point like the the government is either going to back it or want to take it from somebody or accept it. And the only like equivalent for that for Bitcoin and stuff is like criminals. Anyone else can do without it. So it's like that's your guarantor for this product.
I joked at the start about whether you can exchange these for drugs, but honest to God, the only thing I've ever known anyone exchange Bitcoin for is drugs.
Yeah,
and that isn't a joke at all. So,
but now you can buy JPEGs, Alistair. Now you can buy JPEGs.
Yeah, I'm
One thing that I really just don't get though about this whole NFT deal. Obviously, Bitcoin, is a store of value, can be used in transactions, what have you. Even that, that one we were just talking about by Beeple, at least that's his artwork. You have that, you can do stuff with it. But where they're selling off Jack's first tweet, you can't do anything with it. You can't delete it. You can't put it anywhere else.
No.
You can't put it on display in the Louvre.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can't.
What are you paying $2.5 million for? So you can look at it just the same as everyone else can look at it.
I think you're paying for the expectation that somebody else will pay you more for it in the future. I think that's literally the only reason you're buying it. But there was one other thing which drove me even more wild and insane this week about these NFTs, is that some group or some person who owned an actual existing Banksy canvas, the Banksy canvas being appropriately known as Morons, which was a critique of the art market in and of itself. And the guy who owned it, or somebody, they were wearing a balaclava, they set the existing actual art piece on fire during a live stream, and then afterwards sold an NFT of this previously existing real artwork for 275,000 quid.
What the fuck? What? Just how do we live in a world where the ashes of the picture of the ashes, essentially, of a thing that used to exist is now worth millions upon millions? Since COVID has hit, the world has become probably, I wouldn't say insane in a different way, but just insane in an extremely rapid sense of where it was already headed. But how have we gotten here so fucking quickly, where pay $2.5 million for a tweet? I mean, come on.
It's not even a good one. Like, it's not even like a good drill or something like that. The only thing, Matt, you were saying, like, how is this a store of value? And the only reason that I can think that makes it a store of value, but like an extremely like gross and cynical way, is that the energy needed to produce individual Bitcoin grows with every Bitcoin produced, because the blockchain gets longer, the equation becomes more complicated. So currently, it's difficult to fully estimate, but Bitcoin mining on Bitcoin servers is already burning more kilowatts than the entire nation of Argentina, which makes it a top 30 energy user if it was a country.
Yeah. I just want to add on to the Bitcoin is completely bonkers. Like the idea that it would ever replace like fiat currency, scare quotes around that, is absolutely just not going to happen. I mean, aside from the fact that it takes the power of a nuclear reactor to power the damn thing.
Three or four, actually.
3 or 4 nuclear reactors. There is something on the order of, 24 transactions that can be conducted per second? I think that might be an overestimate. 8? Okay, 8.
Yeah.
8 transactions per second.
I actually worked this one out. Now, the number of transactions that Bitcoin can do over the course of one entire year is the exact same number as credit card transactions in the USA in 8 hours.
I mean, that's that. Yeah, the point about the energy that's used as well. I tweeted something about this, and I had loads of Bitcoin fans in my mentions.
Did they all have like Elon Musk avatars or something?
They all had rockets and all that stuff. Yeah. So and the argument that they were putting forward, I think quite a lot of them were saying, actually, this is good for the environment, because what it will mean is we transition more rapidly to renewable energy.
That's like saying that the fact that they're buying up all the spare video cards and making it unaffordable for gamers is good, because now the gamers will have to go outside and do real things for entertainment.
No, see, it's good that I'm digging up all this oil out of the ground so that nobody else can use it.
And they were saying that all of these warehouses that are kind of Bitcoin mining warehouses or whatever, is that they've all got solar panels on the roof, so they're all incentivized to kind of, generate their own electricity. It just sounds completely delusional. And whenever you take this to its logical conclusion, whenever you interrogate it even mildly, you realise this has no use whatsoever, and it is just a massive bubble. But I think that's just representative of so many things since, well, I think what lockdown's accelerated.
I mean, the bubble is the point, as it is with like the housing market or any other bubble you could care to think of.
Yeah.
There are always going to be winners and losers, and the idea of being a Bitcoin guy is that you're going to be one of the winners. You're not going to be one of the poor people who ends up, remortgaging their house to put it all into Bitcoin and then left holding the bag when it drops from, $32,000 or whatever the fuck it is at the moment. And then 10 minutes later, it's down to like 10,000 and you've just wiped out like $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, pounds, whatever you choose. And yeah, and then some guy ends up making like millions and millions off of the back, essentially, as ever, the backs of a bunch of other people. And yeah, this is a desirable thing to have, and the basis upon which we should have all of our finances. I mean, I can see why some people would think that, but I personally am not particularly persuaded.
No.
Yeah, when I was on, not last time, but when I was talking about GameStop last time, I wish I'd pointed that out more. I remember saying, for God's sake, don't buy now, but I probably should have spoken more about what exactly, who's going to walk away, who's going to be left holding the bag, because, yeah, I imagine there's quite a lot of people that did.
When I was doing the show notes for the GameStop thing, I was like, that's one I should have bought, because obviously when the millions of listeners we have of this podcast all rush out to buy it, then I'm golden.
Well, I got shouted down when I tried to say, well, we're just going to have to do our stock tips at the end of each episode.
Yeah, come to Podcast's practice for hot stock tips on what to buy and what to sell.
Well, I mean, speaking of things that are for buy and sale, Matt, I know you've been talking about it certainly this weekend before, but the football index saga, which I honestly didn't know anything about until I did some reading today, and I thought I'd just kind of let you talk about what it is and why people are getting screwed. But the more I read about it, the more like my head started to hurt, essentially.
Yeah, I think it really does exist at this intersection between investing and gambling. And it was licensed as a gambling product, so it's licensed suspended now. And the context here, I think, is there's been, as in recent years, more and more of an overlap between gaming, loot boxes and video games and whatever, gambling and investing, quote unquote. What Football Index was a stock market for footballers. They weren't actually selling shares or trading shares in real footballers. You didn't buy an actual share of, Virgil van Dijk or whatever. They were assets that they'd created to represent footballers. And
this sounds that the other concept would be much cooler if it was like sort of a medieval saint thing that I could like buy the pinky of Dennis Bergkamp or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that might have been a more sustainable business model, because what actually ended up happening, and
fractions of the Holy Crossbar or whatever.
They minted the shares in the footballers, and what they said was, for every goal, assist, clean sheets, and like positive media coverage that this footballer gets, that you buy a share in, will pay dividends. The dividends were sort of what was driving the value in those shares. So you would buy a share in a player, whatever, Jadon Sancho. People would want that share because they would get the dividends that player was sort of bringing in because they were performing well. And then what happened was, and this happened in the last couple of weeks.
Sorry, could I also trade my shares in, I don't know, Wayne Rooney to Alistair, or can I only wait for the dividends to roll in?
Well, if you buy shares in a player, you can wait for your dividends to roll in, and then you can you can sell it at any time at the market rate. So people were buying and selling shares all the time in players, and it was effectively a marketplace, and the value of the shares was determined by kind of market forces within the stock market that Football Index had created to trade footballers, but not real footballers that sort of assets they created. What they ended up happening in the last couple of weeks, they ran out of money. And for multiple reasons, I think primarily because they tried to expand too quickly, and effectively to cut the dividends because they weren't getting the new deposits and the new customers into the platform that they had sort of planned for. And when they cut the dividends that they were paying out because they were worried they were going to run out of money, the market crashed. People said there's no value in these things anymore. So some people had six-figure sums invested in these assets. And the chief executive, the former chief executive, and the existing one, both saying things like reassuring investors, saying they were going to do deals with NASDAQ about, using their technology, saying that the company was in, sound financial footing, encouraging people to invest more all the time. And people did, and they put huge amounts of money in. And obviously now it's absolutely devastated tens of thousands of people. It's pretty grim. It's a pretty grim story. And the Gambling Commission, which is supposed to oversee this particular company, or all gambling licensees, but clearly didn't really understand the business model, because effectively what it became, particularly towards the end, was sort of more akin to a Ponzi scheme. They were desperate to get new money in, and for whatever reason they had burned through their cash reserves, because there's no way really that they should have been in that position. I mean, it may never have worked. It may never have been a viable business model. There's some debate about that, but the way they ran it and the way they tried to expand, and they just burned through their cash, and they were desperate to get new customers in. And then eventually there was a massive correction in the market, but that was caused by them cutting the dividends.
By essentially the market regulator itself. And I mean, we're not talking like small peanuts here. Like this thing, I think during the 2018-19 season, so pre-COVID, the turnover was more than £300 million in like annual trade, and they paid something like 4.5 million in quid out to the actual traders. So like this was not an insubstantial lightweight. What I really don't understand is, I mean, especially given the previous thing we were talking about, is why was this under the Gambling Commission and not like the Financial Conduct Authority? Because what it sounds like to me is that you're building a stock market just on football assets rather than companies.
It almost sounds like what they were going for is, instead of it being shares, they were trying to almost do spread betting. You're buying in at this point and then hoping that the value goes up, which you can sell later. So that's almost what it feels like.
I feel like what would have been a more sound investment, given Matt's explanation just there, would have been first edition Pokemon cards off of eBay. Have you seen how much some of those suckers are going for? And at least you get a shiny bit of foil out of it.
If we put those on the blockchain as well, the Pokemon cards, we burn the Pokemon cards.
Oh, this one's fire resistant though.
Oh dear.
Spread betting is regulated by the FCA, and what you've asked there is absolutely correct. Like, the business model effectively was like almost a narrow bank. So people were putting money in that they could cash out immediately, and the business liabilities were all long dated. So should they have had, things like capital ratios and liquidity supervision and all that stuff? Because effectively they were running the stock market.
Yeah.
Even though they created the assets
build your own
themselves.
stock market, easy.
When I was reading about this, that's what drove me insane. I'm just like, you invented a stock market.
Yeah. I find it all astonishing that the Gambling Commission just really it's not fit for purpose, and there's no ombudsman. So there's no mechanism for any of these consumers to get redress for the way that this is, unfolded. And that's why I'm working with Lee Day, the law firm, to hopefully, investigate possible causes of action, and then we can take it forward. But I mean, as of yesterday, had about 5,000 people sign up to to get updates on the case. So it's massive, and the sums that we're talking about are huge. There's about 90 million was sucked out of the market in like the crash cost about 90 million in value, which is astonishing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is it. Like, well, this is particularly sort of an unregulated type thing that as soon as there's a panic, then huge amounts of everything or value and currency can just evaporate because people that aren't willing to buy anywhere near the cost that they just sold at. I mean, technically that's money transferred at some point, but it will all just go and people will lose huge amounts of their holding. It's weird though that because once you've got enough money to sort of be influential in the real stock market, it can be very hard to lose money because you get access to so much insider trading and protection and
you get plugged
like
into the matrix and then they stream the data straight into the back of your head.
Yeah, or they buy the server farm a microsecond closer to the stock exchange so they can outbid the competition.
I fucking love the lengths that like finance people go to because it's just ludicrous.
All
like
the stuff that you
optimizations like the optimizations you can make to the system in order that you get your trades in either with better information or just plain faster. Yeah, so yeah.
But yeah, no, if you're just preying on the individual, with a glitzy futuristic sport thing or Pokemon cards or whatever, then
and you're disguising essentially what is gambling in a non-regulated stock market through football. So the people you would get, maybe Matt, maybe I'm wrong, but like the profile of the people you would attract with this would be even broader than just with, I don't know, regular slot machines or online poker or something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's lots of people that I've spoken to just since the weekend who didn't gamble on anything else, and they didn't even see this as gambling. So you can imagine, like, the devastation that they're currently going through because they've never experienced losses like this, and they were making what they thought were long-term bets. So, for an example, there's a player called Cherky who plays for Lyon, I think, and they minted a load of shares in him, and he's only 17, and he's been injured most of the season. So, loads of people bought shares in this player, and they're not paid out any dividends on him. So, these were sort of what they were considering. So, all of that money's gone, obviously. So there's I think that there's money that's somewhere that needs to be found, that the company is not, been moving money around, that I think that's going to obviously be the subject of the investigation, because there's no way that it could have burned through those cash reserves so quickly without moving money around. That's what
Look, Matt, I'm sure that these are fine, upstanding people that are running this operation, and they've with a thorough police investigation, I'm sure it will all be sorted out.
No, I was just going to say, so effectively the way it worked was these were 3-year bets. So you would buy the shares, and then if the bets were supposed to expire after 3 years, but then apparently they just didn't expire. They just lapsed after the 3 years. So that may be a theory as to why they ran out of money, that they couldn't afford the dividend payments, because they just sort of let people maintain their assets created, obviously. So there's a lot of confusion really about what exactly has gone on. But what we do know is the complex company structure. So Bet Index, which was licensed by the Gambling Commission, that's based in Jersey, probably for reasons of avoidance of corporation tax.
Yeah, I was going to say, based in Jersey always gives me warm and fuzzy feelings.
And then you've got Index Labs, which is the parent company, and that's registered in the UK. And then if you look on their LinkedIn page, you can see that they actually say Football Index is our creation, what we created. So that's probably where the money is, I would have thought. So yeah, I mean, it just really does shine a light on how easy I think it is to get licensed by the Gambling Commission, because why wouldn't the Gambling Commission say, for example, we're not going to license Bet Index because it's in Jersey. We're going to instead say that you've got to transfer all of the IP, keep it in Index Labs, and then you'll have to pay UK corporation tax. But they don't do that. I mean, that's just a very simple thing that they could do.
Yeah.
And it just seems like the whole system is almost geared up to enable people to take the piss.
Well, I mean, it's sort of smoothly bridging from one taking the piss section into another. What is out now is the UK Integrated Review, which is sort of a document that spells out the Britain's security, defence, development and foreign policy quadrant, or whatever you want to call it, for the UK. And this is essentially, it says where they believe Britain should be going in the next years. It's like 100-page document, and I lightly skimmed through it, so I don't want to talk about all the details. I just want to pick out a few bits that I found extremely funny.
I think my favorite thing that I've seen from all this is that we're going to nuke all the hackers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so rather than aiming our nuclear weapon, what is it, 40% increased nuclear weapon reserve at other like nation states with that also have a nuclear arsenal. No, we're going to aim it at any kid with a laptop that downloads an illegal copy of Weekend at Bernie's or some shit.
So war games, please, come on.
The new generation of those ads of, you wouldn't steal a car, you wouldn't download a movie, but then this time there's like...
You wouldn't start a thermonuclear war with a child in a living room.
No, but one of the weird equivalents that's being drawn which is why one of the reasons they said they want more nukes is because they say that cyber is now at the same level as nuclear, chemical and biological weapons. Now, I think there's some argument to be had there, but there's some other shit in there that I found extremely funny. My favorite bit of this is by summer of this year, the UK is going to establish its own space command to advance the UK's military interest on Earth and in space.
Oh my fucking god!
He really is Trump, isn't he, with the blonde hair?
Yeah.
So, are we going
to put the orange makeup on?
Hang on, isn't it illegal to militarize space anyway? I know, like the USA doesn't care about that. How are we going to get away with that?
Well, you see, now that we're out of the EU, we can launch our own satellites that contain the increased nuclear arsenal. We're going to launch the submarines into space, and thereby saving ourselves money in having to develop a nuclear-armed gunship. I mean, it just makes sense.
It's fine.
Well, you say this, but one of the things that is inside these plans is also that they want to create a space launch pad somewhere in Scotland, I think. So we are going to...
I'm sorry, where?
Somewhere in Scotland. That country's that's not legal.
Scotland?
Yes.
The place famous for its relaxed and calm weather.
Yeah. It'll be fine. It'll be great.
Always the lovely clear skies, just the thing for, a launch.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other bits that I find less funny and more terrifying is that, I can't remember the page number, but it is buried in there, is that they say that they will bring in voter identification as part of the UK's security effort to ensure that, Russia doesn't hack our election again.
You just have to laugh at this point. I mean, we could the window wherein we could have done something about this has essentially passed. So, I mean, rather than feeling helpless, I just laugh at people who were, saying that this definitely couldn't have happened, and then, wouldn't you look now? Look what's happened. Quelle surprise.
Well, okay, they did this, but surely the next thing won't happen, surely.
Surely not, no. I mean, I felt a bit difficult bringing this up. I mean, knowing that Matt worked for years for noted Czech intelligence agent Jeremy Corbyn, KGB, but...
I mean, it's all astonishing, all of this stuff. I mean, I don't think that there's anything to be gained really from saying to everyone that we told you so. But what I can't really abide is the blue tick liberals all now, having a meltdown because of what's unfolding, even though it was entirely predictable, and they actively sabotaged and were desperate for to stop Corbyn, and that was like their priority. It was pathological, and to the point where even the most rabid kind of stop Brexiteers were prioritising stopping Corbyn over Remain. That was their kind of hierarchy of priorities. So yeah, I mean, I find it completely astonishing. And now, like all of the things that he said, not just on defence, but like all of the things that he said are coming to fruition, really. So,
yeah,
the 4-day week, I think, is going to become a reality much quicker than anyone could have predicted, really, before the pandemic. The free broadband thing, which was mocked, he was sort of ahead of the game on that. The fact that austerity was a load of bollocks, everyone sort of accepted that now, and governments can spend money, they can create money and spend money, and that's not really contentious anymore.
I think Angela Rayner actually put it quite well herself, because it might be true, but you can't say that.
Oh,
and it's just it is incredible to me that I mean, I'm not surprised at all. It was inexorable the way that the people who, if they were actually going to try and achieve the kind of world that they purport to want, which is one where we don't live in an authoritarian right-wing hellhole, those people were always going to oppose someone who is going to cause them any sort of pain, in the sense of whether it be through taxation or otherwise. But the world that these people want to live in is one where they can give a sort of piecemeal resistance to a rightwards ratchet, that just goes on indefinitely as the Overton window inevitably shifts to the right. That is the world that they want to live in. They don't want to ever actually have to fight for anything. I mean, the one thing they did supposedly want to fight for was to stay in the EU, and they were thwarted by themselves. So it's kind of...
all this kind of leads us very naturally into one of the many reasons why we wanted to bring Matt on this evening, which is to discuss, I put it in the show notes as the state of the Labour Party, but I can't remember who, but somebody changed it to the absolute state of the Labour Party, which I think is
way more accurate.
It's a much better joke. So we're coming up very close now to, it was on April 4th, so about 2 weeks from now, that Keir Starmer was elected leader of the Labour Party. And I think post-Jeremy Corbyn, there was certainly, after the loss of the 2019 election, there was like this moment of sort of total deer-in-the-headlights panic. What happened, what's gone wrong, all that stuff. I really don't want to spend this podcast relitigating that, because that's just, to me, that's in the past now. And if there's any lessons to learn, then maybe we talk about it. There was that moment in the beginning with the 10 pledges of Starmer and to say, look, I will continue his radical work, but I'll just wear a nice suit and have a haircut and not nationalize sausages or whatever. And in between that moment and now, I mean, the whole thing has just... I'm astonished by how quickly the whole thing is just... I mean, the wheels... or maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. But the wheels do really seem to be coming off the wagon.
You're right, and that's their own... That's, I think, obviously their own fault of the direction they've gone. I don't want to relitigate the past too much, but I would like to talk just very briefly about January 2020 and the fact that we didn't have any campaign ready to go. We didn't have any campaign planned. Compared to the other side, who had literally years of planning and focus groups and. Labour together.
Money, which is an interesting question.
So and Matt, your side being that of Rebecca Long-Bailey, just to make that clear.
Well, just the left, really. I mean, Rebecca. Rebecca was, she stepped up and deserves a lot of credit for doing so in a difficult context. And as you say, everyone was very shell shocked. But we had to piece a campaign together, and we wanted to protect the gains that Jeremy had made in policy, which I think a lot of the membership had become very desensitized to, how far we had shifted, and as a result of that moved the Overton window and shifted the terms of debate in the country. And, we wanted to protect that. So we wanted to make this about policy and not retreating. And then we would sort of succeed. Initially, we were succeeding in, I think, making it about policy and getting getting commitments out of the other candidates and trying to smoke them out to as much as possible about where they actually stood. Keir was a very, very slippery and very, very the way that he presented himself was ambiguous enough that people could project onto him what they wanted. But
that's Obama-like quality, never stating a position, but giving just the right words and dropping the right hint here and there, like some sort of weird confetti thing. It has that Obama vibe to me, where people just imprinted on him what they wanted for themselves.
Exactly.
A very weird characteristic I thought of the whole competition was the presence of pledges. You know, obviously, like, we should incessantly mock and attack Starmer for making these pledges at the time and now broken like all of them. But then also there's just like random organizations and groupings demanding all of the candidates sign up for this pledge and that pledge and stuff like that. It was an odd kind of, like most of the pledges were either quite, boring or just kind of often veiled attack lines as well. It was a very odd kind of campaign environment because, suddenly it wasn't about candidates able to take the control of it.
Yeah, I do want to say though that the concrete pledges, as you rightly say, Seb, like they are the most concrete thing that we've had out of Keir Starmer in the entire time post 2019 really, apart from being a staunch Remainer prior to that. So it is interesting.
Yeah. So in the context of the leadership debate, I felt like that was a response to him being in terms of like what was being debated and where the conversation was going around leadership. I felt like that was a response to that context. So it may not have been planned initially that he would do the 10 pledges. I know, for example, that one of the people that's very close to Keir Starmer and very influential in his campaign and now in his operation, who is on the right of the party, compared the 10 pledges to the Communist Manifesto. So,
oh my God, everyone's a fucking trot to these people, isn't it?
I know.
Oh my God. A list comrade, is it?
But even they
send
were
them to the gulags next. Sorry, go on, Matt.
Sorry, even they were kind of written in a way that gave him a lot of wriggle room. And when they did it, I was like, okay, good. We've kind of drawn him out enough that he's had to take some kind of position on different issues because he wasn't doing that until that point. And now we've got commitments to hold him to if we don't win. But there was so at the same time it was like, okay, now that's going to reassure people. So it's going to reassure people enough that if they were a bit wavering slightly, that would give them a bit of comfort. But obviously, he just completely backtracked on all of them anyway.
Well, yeah, to be honest, Corbynism, but with good press, is one hell of a way of convincing Labour members to vote for you. But that's obviously not what they have.
No, and I mean, I remember at the time as well, this whole story that was kicked around right before Becky Lawn-Bailey signed up with the next leader of Labour must be a woman and it's really important that we show diversity. And I'm not disagreeing that the next leader of the Labour Party should be a woman, but that all of a sudden that went completely out the window the moment the guy in the suit and the haircut showed up, I thought that was a fascinating sort of little sideshow as well.
I mean, as ever with these people, it's whatever was politically convenient to say or do. It was politically convenient to say when the two main offices as the opposition, the leader of the opposition and the shadow chancellor, when they were both men, it was very easy to say both of these people should be women. And in the wake of Keir Starmer and the other his opponents essentially all being women, is that no, Keir Starmer is the one with the feminist credentials.
Yeah.
But I do also just want to add that I do like how we've gone from these relatively concrete pledges of Keir Starmer to Paul Mason having to do essentially tea leaf readings of what Keir Starmer's said and done to people on Twitter because otherwise you can't understand things from a Marxist perspective.
Yeah, he's on Keir Starmer jazz. It's all about the policies you don't hear. That's
But hang on, wasn't one of the original 10 pledges to agree with the Tories on everything ever?
I mean, I find that difficult because I do understand and have some sympathy for the fact that Rona blew in and just changed everything. And I do get that, like, if you're the Labour Party and you want to persuade people who are not the people on this podcast or the people who listen to this podcast, that a lot of people would find it really difficult had Labour like really gone into harsh opposition on everything from day one. Like, I have some sympathy for that position, but to just sort of pre-announce that, you know, we will support the government, this is one of these things that I find really baffling, because what it leaves you with, and we see that now, is that whatever's going to come out of this, whatever inquiry or nothing, and there was a stupid sideshow with Dominic Cummings today in Parliament, and like Labour can't really put the boot in because they've agreed with all of it while it was happening. So the Tories have to do is just say, yeah, but you agreed with us when it was happening. So, you know, like the Captain Hindsight thing, I remember that slogan from the Tories because it works.
Yeah, you know, whatever failings Jeremy Corbyn had as leader of the Labour Party, it was forever said throughout his leadership that he never actually opposed the Tories. But you have to be, you know, it is in your political interest to say that when, you know, prior to 2019, because even after the 2019 election, even though Jeremy Corbyn was about to leave office, the opposition leadership, the Labour Party leadership election was underway. He still caused the fucking Tories to implement the scheme for people who furlough scheme. Sorry, even then, he actually, you know, through actually doing political manoeuvring, which is what you are supposed to do as the opposition. You are supposed to, you know, position yourself in such a way that you cause the incumbent government to either make a fool of themselves or to do the thing that you want them to do. But because Keir Starmer has joined politics about 2 minutes ago, he's just either decided he doesn't want to do that kind of thing and to be this, you know, rubber-faced man that you can just project whatever you want onto, or he's just incapable of doing that kind of thing, or taking instructions from people who would actually get him to do something like that. But
I think I think it's the latter. I think he doesn't really have a worldview. He doesn't really have a vision or any kind of, you know, concrete beliefs. He just thinks he should be in charge. He's the sort of person that should be in charge because he's been in charge of organisations before, and, you know, he'd be good at being in charge and taking decisions and all that stuff. That's his conception of politics, right? So it's not about like actually a transformative change. It's about getting into power and being a better manager than the other guy. And I think he's surrounded by people who reinforce that belief, but also people who, frankly, their conception of the British public is out of date. It's about 30 years out of date.
24 if you want to be precise.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, the centre of gravity of public opinion is on the left. I mean, that's why the Tories are doing a lot of, or at least in terms of rhetoric, are emulating a lot of Labour policies. You know, the idea that we need to be more right-wing than the Tories to win, it just completely misunderstands the electorate, completely misunderstands the areas of the country that we lost. And Labour, frankly, has been in terminal decline since 2010, or since 2005, in fact.
Well, 2001, arguably.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's obviously accelerated a lot since 2010, except one election, 2017, we bucked the trend. And if you look at it from that perspective, then the fact that they're ignoring that election and they're ignoring what happened there and what Jeremy Corbyn did and how he did it, and, you know, the positive lessons that we learned, the one time that we bucked the trend and all of these people on the right of the party were trying to fuck us over from the inside. And they don't want to learn those lessons. They want to pretend that election never happened, which I think is...
No, because then they would have to admit that something good and positive came out of something, a period that they consider to be wholly garbage and the need for rejecting. And Matt, this is a question I had. There's something that's sort of been rummaging around in my head, which I really can't work out, because I know there's like a lot of jokes and stuff of this Kieth party now being run by focus groups, and I think a lot of it is. But what I can't work out is, even under Tony Blair, in the last election as well, if you remember, we had, Workington Man was there, like, There are always these sort of composites that need to
Mondeo
be chased.
Under Blair, yes.
Mondeo Man. Work that. And what I was trying to work out in my head is like who the composite character is that like this Keir Starmer Labour Party is trying to like convince. Because like I hate the term Labour with Red Wall with every fibre of my being. But is it?
Well, like,
it's
gammon, isn't it? Like that's it. It's everything is orientated towards winning over the gammon. Unfortunately, the gammon are never going to vote for Labour. They're never going to. They are economically and culturally predisposed now to be voting Tory every election until they die. And the problem with trying to appeal to the gammon and having your entire operation as sort of gammon focused is you end up alienating your new base, which is young people. And that's what's happening now. Young people are going to the Greens or they're becoming disillusioned. And unfortunately, there is a demographic issue here that can only really be resolved in the short term by expanding the electorate. It's not going to work to do what we did in 97 by trying to appeal to Tory voters. We're not talking about young aspirational Tory voters now. We're talking about old asset owners who are probably landlords and who are retired and not even involved in the labour market and are reactionary, and that's who Starmer's trying to appeal to.
Yeah, I mean, I find that really difficult because, like, to me, like, as you say, it seems so, like, blindingly obvious, at least to me, that, like, the gammon vote and the women gams, let's not be, sexist.
Gammon is gender
lady gams.
I think, I'm not sure gammon is gender neutral anymore, but I want to be, we are an inclusive podcast. And what I find really interesting is that sort of mixed in there is and what I think the Keir Starmer Labour Party seems to sort of really want to ignore is that Remain and Leave have formed distinct cultural identities, and they still think that, okay, we're not going to, like, we agree it's Leave now, but like, the identity, at least as I see it, as Leave, has coalesced around the Tory and doesn't seem to want to budge from that position at any time soon. Like, again, it's that gammon vote. And I find it, they seem to sort of, much like the Corbyn years, they seem to sort of want to brush Remain and Leave under the carpet.
I mean, I think electorally, though, like, if you're going to go with that mindset, then you're never going to win an election again, sort of, even if they're, because obviously Leave did have huge demographic, tendencies towards the gammon and just the people who will never vote for, Corbynite type policies anyway. But I don't know if that's a particularly useful framing going forward, particularly because, it has happened and stuff like that. So it is a part breaking apart that sense of that coalition.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with that. I wonder how you would do that, and certainly how this Labour Party, as it currently exists, will seek to do that. Like, that's my biggest trouble with it.
I can't see it happening. I really just can't. I mean, there's just so many people, or so many, as I say, young people now, disillusioned with the Labour Party, and they just don't know where to go. They have no political home anymore. When it comes to the next election, they're not going to vote Labour, and they're not going to vote Tory. But all the Tory people are still going to vote Tory, so I think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath for Labour.
Yeah, Matt, do you have any views on what you think is going to happen in May?
I think we should treat 2017 as an anomaly, and then we should look at the trajectory of the last few elections, excluding 2017, and that's where Labour will head. And I think in May, it's going to be a disaster. I think we might even lose councillors. Which is, given the last time we had this local elections was 2017, which was just as I think the
high point.
I think the election was called actually so the general election was called, and then we had the local elections about a week later. So we hadn't really made up the ground then. So it wasn't a great night for Labour. We'd held on to a fair few seats or whatever, a fair few councils, but it wasn't like a landslide victory or anything for us. But I think we still even might lose councillors from this point. And now there's there's a lot of political space that's been created. Who knows what could happen with, for example, the Northern Independence Party or who knows what could happen with the Greens if more left-wing people join the Greens and they start to take less centrist liberal positions on things. I mean, there's lots of opportunities now that really Labour hasn't had to worry about in the last 5 years, but they are now suddenly an issue.
Yeah, see, I'm at a point as I was a member of the Labour Party pretty much from 2015 until mid 2020. At this point, I am pretty much, my mind is in the place where I would sooner vote Green to annoy someone in, like, some guy in Labour HQ, right up until the point that they might, like, say, win a seat or win a councillor or something. That's pretty much my consideration there. Is I would get more of my political aims met by voting for the Greens to annoy one guy in Labour HQ than I would for voting for the Labour Party in its current state. And I don't know how universal that feeling is, but it's
I think
not,
you know.
I think more common than you might think.
I agree. I think
mean,
in the past.
Well, I was just going to say quickly that, yeah, you know, like, just need to look at the people that were the really solid activist base in Momentum, and, you know, sort of they, you know, won the campaigning or canvassing strike in Bristol because they don't want to go out for candidates that aren't willing to stand up for the membership against the various things, you know, that the Labour regional officers and stuff have been doing. And yeah, so like that's such a swing in terms of enthusiasm and, you know, just belief in candidates just because they're Labour, and that's, you know, the really dedicated Momentum lot.
Remember that, you know, even in 2017, there was a lot of voting for candidates, or voting Labour in spite of the candidates, right? I mean, what's her face? Was it Canterbury? I can't remember which MP that is.
Rosie Duffield,
is that Duffield?
Yeah, Rosie Duffield in particular. If I was someone who ended up voting for Rosie Duffield, and I had the choice to vote for her again, boy, would that be that would be quite a large pair of fingers on my nose, I think. But I do have a question for you, actually, Matt. The right of the Labour Party sees electoral success behind driving anyone from the party that is to the left of Gordon Brown. Say that they are correct, and that is the way to electoral success. What happens when they drive all these people out, and all the activists that are incumbent with that side of the party are gone?
What happens?
What is the end game there? Yeah, exactly. What happens?
So the answer to this question is why I'm staying in the Labour Party despite everything, and that is that they will replace the sources of funding and support with corporate vested interests.
We've seen already quite a lot.
They will emulate the Tories in their organisational structure. They will.
Oh no! Does that mean we're going to get a bunch of paid, like, cursed Instagram ads with like fucking Luke Akers bow tie wearing dipshits in it?
Nothing that competent, because they'll still be staffed by complete idiots.
Starmer's Labour is going onto TikTok now, so you're going to get the cabinet or shadow cabinet just like flossing on TikTok, duetting each other.
But we have obviously, because of first past the post, we have a two-party system fundamentally, and what they want to do is shut out, you know, democratic accountability and grassroots activism from that process and from that system. And the Labour right see themselves as almost the gatekeepers to keeping, you know, the left out of trying to influence or infiltrate the establishment. That's their mindset. Their loyalty is to kind of the establishment, and that's the real division. I think it really did. I think it was magnified when I was working for Jeremy, because they not only did they see us as illegitimate and his leadership as illegitimate, but they they saw the entire left as illegitimate, and that they almost had rationalised themselves that they could do whatever they wanted and they could do anything possible to fuck us over, and that was the number one priority in everything they did, and it was overwhelming at times and completely inexplicable. But that was their mindset. They were trying to protect the establishment from the left. And the left is a kind of proxy for
Trotsky,
ordinary people who were getting involved in politics.
It was really instructive to me, at least, just how monumental. When Jeremy Corbyn was elected leader, I was shocked. That someone who represented my politics was, now a mainstream, politician. But I had no idea at that point just how big, just how enormous the fucking task ahead of that leadership is. Because not only do you have the establishment of, capital itself, the oncoming Tory forever rule, but you also have the people who uphold essentially the interests of capital within the Labour Party itself. That is something that only ever really became truly apparent to me in the wake of that 2017 election, when we realised just how close things were, and just how, if that resistance within the party itself hadn't been there, it might have been a completely different story.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to sort of to come back to your question of what did they want when the last leftist has turned out the light. What I always think about when I think about the West Streetings of this world, it's just to me they see themselves as they cannot fail. They can only be failed. So even if Labour drops to 100 seats or less and loses councils by the bushel, they will just say this means
councils come in bushels.
No, but it's like austerity, It's the reason we haven't succeeded yet is because there's still a Trotskyist hidden among us, or because the stupid public doesn't understand our clever thing. It's these people, and that's essentially. I mean, I'm a disgusting foreigner, so I'm not a member of the Labour Party for a number of reasons. But to me, that's why these people will stick around forever, because they cannot fail. They can only be failed.
It really is interesting. It really is interesting how. I mean, it's just every day the evidence just mounts up and up about how every accusation they ever levelled at people who supported Jeremy Corbyn is just them telling on themselves, right?
A lot of it's projection, absolutely. And we supported Jeremy, and I did obviously in 2015 because I agreed with his policies and his politics, and I'd been a member of the party at that point for 5 years, but from a pragmatic basis that in a two-party system, that's the only way you're going to ever get left-wing outcomes from the political process in an arena sense. So therefore, you have to join the most left-wing party and try to influence it that has a chance of winning. That was my kind of rationality for getting involved in any way. And then, as you say, here comes this guy who actually represents everything I think, and I'm going to obviously vote for him. And I naively thought, I was completely unaware of the level of institutional opposition that there would be, in the bureaucracy and in the terms of the faction. Because you have to remember, when he won, as I'm sure a lot of people who voted for him thought, okay, he's going to get a fair crack of the whip now. He's won overwhelmingly. The party's got no choice but to sort of get behind him if they want to win and be in government. That was obviously not the case, and it was brought into sharp focus obviously when I started working for him. And which was sort of about 10 months or so later after he got elected. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty astonishing, the level of malevolence and briefing against him and obstruction and every possible roadblock they could put in the way, they did. And I'm looking forward to Seamus Milne's book, put it that way.
To me, what seems to be an illustrative example is what's going on now. And this is Robert's pronunciation hour again. In Hartlepool is this business of the previous guy had to step down because of a number of very serious allegations.
Reasons.
Yeah, I know how much David loves it when we do libel on this podcast, so I'm gonna, not say things.
At least it would only be libel at this point. Jamie's not on today, so we're pretty safe in that regard.
But is this idea that they have this Paul something or other is now being clearly moved in by the leadership, and just this evening, right before we started recording, Seb Payne of the FT posted a long email from the secretary of the Hartlepool Labour Party, saying that Paul will accept the offer. Apparently, the offer's already out there that he will be the candidate. And it's just completely. I mean, it's clearly a stitch up, and they even mention it. I'll read directly from the email. The left will make a big deal of us anointing a candidate and paint the election as a stitch up. We need to make it clear that these arrangements are local and that in the absence of a full selection process, which there won't be because they've ensured that there isn't, and the choice of a local candidate, Paul is the choice of the CLP. So it's like, and just to make sure that like this guy, Paul, I can't remember his last name at the moment, but the guy they want to drop in is a guy who's been really at the forefront, like hardcore Remain movement. And Hartlepool, I looked at the statistics, voted 70% to leave. So I'm like, if you want your right-wing Labour lunatic in there, fine, but like you can't find one who's not like have a track record in the Remain movement in that area. I find it so baffling, and it really is emblematic of a party that seeks to regain total control over the membership, which was one of the Corbyn accomplishments, was actually to reverse that trend and give members some actual say.
Yeah, I mean, failing to get open selections during time, both just with Corbyn as leader and then when they had control of the NEC, it's one of those huge failings and, creations of future difficulties about getting any sort of left-wing power back in the party because, all right, this is a surprise election. They may well not have had to go through the formal open selection stuff that was being proposed. But just, it's emblematic of they're in control of the pathways to power in the party again. That was a lot of P's. Then, they're just going to abuse that as much as they possibly can, even if it does lose them the seat. They're happy in a sense holding on to the shadow positions or only being parliamentary candidates, so long as there doesn't then become a positive left force in the parliamentary arena.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I think it's important to understand, obviously, in the strategy to appeal to the gammon. The gammon get their news from newspapers. One of the last demographics to really overwhelmingly still be reading the newspapers. So anything that they do, as long as it passes the test of will the media like this, or / will they not mind if we do this, it is kind of gives it the green light, and no one in the media is really going to kick up a fuss about what's happening here because ultimately it's kicking the left. And if Corbyn were to do anything like what Starmer and Evans have done since they took the reins, it would have been, Stalinism. It would have been called anti-democratic. It would have been called, every name under the sun, really. But no one's the media establishment, which tries to frame everything, and succeeds in some respects. It doesn't mind that they're flexing their muscles in this way.
I think I've always thought of Jeremy Corbyn that the reason why he won was always going to be the reason why he would never achieve what I think, and probably other people on the podcast as well think, would have been the ultimate long-term, achievement with staying power, which would have been to truly cement, a member-focused or member-driven party. But because, as you say, any sort of attempts at, flexing the muscles of the leadership would be portrayed as Stalinism. And Jeremy isn't that kind of person. He's never going to be the authoritarian. You're going to run the party this way or else. That's sort of the double-edged sword, right?
But I think that the lesson of the last few years is next time we have an opportunity is to do that in spite of the media and not that we ever tried to really appease the media or anything like that. But I think after 2017 there was a feeling that we lost a little bit of our edge, about a bit of our insurgency, because we felt like we were very close to government. We didn't want to rock the boat. Not that we didn't rock the boat, but we felt like we had something to lose at that point. And I think before then it was like a lot of the things that we perhaps would have done had 2017 not happened, like party reform, open selections, all of these things that would actually have had a lasting impact and cemented the gains. We sort of backed away from the confrontation. And that's definitely a lesson that we've learned.
That's definitely like a weakness of the connection, I think, between the Labour Party and the Labour Party membership and sort of, the more radical left in general. Because, it's one of those balance of power things that as the party got a sense of, and the MPs, etc., got a sense of, oh, okay, actually, we might be in power genuinely quite soon, then they start adopting a governmental mindset, not being friendly to the old legislation and the structures of the state, but as you were just saying, sort of a sense of de-radicalization, which kind of saps some of the energy out of it. But then if they kept a stronger, more connection to the more radical extra parliamentary stuff, then they would the ones still be baying for, nationalising of everything, the actual taxing of the rich, etc. And that would be pushing both, the movement in general and then the party and then the sense of the party itself, still keeping that radicalism. So that's always kind of the danger, I guess, of getting close to power, but not having that kind of radical connection to the base.
Yeah. I mean, I want to sort of have one sort of brief more thought about because I'm also conscious of the time. It's to look at the May elections and beyond that. It's one of the things that we've been told, certainly ad nauseam by the sort of blue tick liberal belt Ian Dunt brigade, is that it's not necessarily about the polling of the Labour Party itself, which is weird because it's Corona and people support the government, which okay to some extent. But that we also always must look at the Keir Starmer's approval rating. And it was Aaron Bastani put out a tweet a while ago that a lot of even the local campaign literature really prominently featured like Keir Starmer up front as like really the face of the party. And, you may be voting for a councillor, but really you're voting for Sir Keir. And his net satisfaction ratings have plummeted and they've only gone down from 66% approved to 19%, and that's just among Labour voters. He's in the negatives now with the general public, and even more negative among Tory voters. So
I love to live in the Swin zone.
But it's an interesting, how do they honestly think? And this is a genuine question because, I'm even open to the idea that we are an outlier. Do they honestly think that this guy is the asset? Is that real? I don't. What?
Yeah, I mean, it is that managerialism, isn't it? And it's what Remain really was all about. It wasn't really about staying in the EU, the Remain movement. It was stopping Brexit. It was about a return to a managerialist conception of politics and having people in charge that look like they ought to be in charge, that we can be deferent to, like people who look a bit like David Cameron and wear sharp suits and Blair and whatever. It is vibes fundamentally. It's not really about any policies or a worldview or a vision or changing the country or anything that's tangible. It's really just about feeling like the people that are in charge, that should be in charge, are in charge. And that is exactly, it's nothing. I don't think it's anything deeper than that for a lot of the people on the Labour right. It's more just about how can I live out my fantasy of being a politician, because I've watched The West Wing. How can I live out this kind of You know, that's all it is. How can I be in charge and have my own kind of small bit of power, whether it's as a councillor or whether it's as a, you know, parliamentary candidate or whatever? How can I have my own share of that rather than I want to change stuff? What's the most effective way of doing it?
How can I stay in the job as long as possible?
Honestly, though, like I think the thing that least qualifies literally anyone for being in charge of, like, well, whether it be prime minister or in charge of anything, is just being in charge for the sake of being in charge, which is pretty much the impression that I get from Keir Starmer. But I can't remember where I read it, but I just remember reading that one of my favourite quotes of Jeremy Corbyn was the fact that when it was his turn to go for the leadership, he told whoever it was that he better not fucking win. And that, to me, is kind of the quality I think that you need to be in leadership of something, is to not really want to be doing it in the first place.
Yeah. One of the few things that Plato got right with the philosopher king concept of people who don't want power are the people that are most suited for it. Otherwise, you end up with just people who are very good at, I don't know, they're sophists, effectively. They're just people who kind of look like they know what they're talking about, and frankly, you know, as we've seen with Starmer, just there's no depth whatsoever to him. It is astonishing, really, just quite how shallow his whole kind of political program is.
Matt, you've said before, like, you are still a member of the Labour Party. I think anybody who was on this podcast or in like the podcast crew who was a member of the Labour Party, like Alistair, has pretty much dropped. I would be almost remiss in saying that David, among others, believes that it's time for the Labour Party to personifiy and die, so that something better can be born. I'd like you to give you every opportunity to make a case as to why people should stay in the Labour Party. And I make no judgments as to whether people do or not in this particular case.
The reason people should stay is that Starmer's leadership won't last. It might not even last till an election. And I think the best outcome for the left would be a minority Labour government that relies on SNP support and maybe even Lib Dem support. But as a price.
That's a big oof.
I know, but the reason I say that is the price of that would be, that incredibly unstable coalition would be electoral reform. And if we get electoral reform and we get proportional representation, we can all go our separate ways and set up our own version of Podemos and then crack on.
Okay.
But in order for that to happen, we need to vote for Labour. So that's the thing. That's the quandary. And it is, yes, it's a paradox. I want to vote for Labour because I want the Labour Party to eventually split. But when there is a proportional voting system,
in order to kill Labour, we must first vote for it.
Have you seen the film Alien, Alistair?
Yeah, I have. Yes.
Yeah, just
to understand Labour, we must vote Labour.
I don't get me started now. I'm having doing a whole like Starship Troopers thing in my head, where like Labour Party members wear those cool black uniforms and, you know, hold their hands against the Keir Starmer fungus and go, "It's afraid." Anyway, I just being conscious of the time, I think, shall we move on to comment or commentariat? Matt, I'm assuming you don't listen to this podcast because you've got better things to do. Are you familiar with our game comment or commentariat?
I'm not familiar with it, no, sorry.
Okay. John, do you want to explain it?
Well, basically what we do is I'm going to read out a couple of statements, and you will have to decide whether it's a comment or commentariat. And generally, there's a little bonus to try and guess who it might have been that wrote it and where.
Basically, we've got a few snippets of whether it be from an article or a comment underneath an article, and they can be from could be from anywhere. I mean, I think we had
just
one.
Not Twitter. We don't do Twitter or Facebook. It has to be...
not Twitter. It's like BBC or like Conservative Woman or anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Spiked, and then we're never quite sure if that counts as comment or commentary.
Yeah, but there's a good possibility that people are actually getting paid to put these actual words into print.
Let's do it.
All right, you want to kick us off with round
So
one?
are you ready?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. Okay. This year, St. Patrick's Day in America is serving an additional function, a highly political one that should worry those of us that care about the Irish Republic. Beneath all that plastic paddy pageantry, this year St. Patrick's Day is being used to consolidate Ireland's new role as the watcher of Brexit Britain, even as the tamer of Brexit Britain. So was that comment or commentary?
I think that's commentary. The language was too flowery to be the insane comments that end up being under these articles.
Yeah, that's got to be. I think that's got to be Telegraph, isn't it? That's Telegraph material.
Yeah,
I just don't think I've ever seen a comment where someone seems to claim to respect the Republic of Ireland, so it must be commentariat.
I think it's commentariat too.
Okay, commentariats, and yes, you'd all be right. Yeah, it was our Brendan O'Forehead.
Brendan O'Forehead.
Get up. What was that? Was that in the Specky?
That was Spiked.
Spiked. All right. Okay.
Yeah. All right. On to the next one. So, Labour is now voting against longer prison sentences for sex offences, as well as Keir wanting to reintroduce free movement of people. Labour have learned nothing about what the people of this country do and do not want. Is that comment or commentary?
Is that Boris Johnson writing in the title?
I'm going to say comment.
Yeah, I think comment.
I think
comment.
Yeah, comment as well. It's just it's short and it's just blunt and it's claiming to know the consciousness of the entire public of the UK. And I guess actually that's.
I was going to say that doesn't.
Well, but...
Yeah, it doesn't fucking narrow it down at all.
yeah. All right. Maybe I've talked myself out of that. But no, I still think comment. You're
still going with comment. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it is a comment. And although we said we didn't use it, this was actually on the Labour Party Facebook page.
I think Jamie put these together, didn't he? And he doesn't obey the rules, so I don't think we have a choice but to carry on.
Okay.
Direct all complaints to
direct all complaints to @WizardCubes.
Democracy may be under threat, but I am more worried about how the pious woke brigade are silencing freedom of speech in the US and the UK.
Oh my god.
Is that a comment or commentary?
Is that Brendan O'Neill again? That sounds unfair.
Imagine just, do these people, if this is commentary, like these people get fucking paid by the buzzword, I swear to fucking God.
Yes.
I hate that woke.
That's commentary.
I utterly hate them.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Matt on this. I think we've agreed on everything so far.
So you're going commentary up?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, this one was a comment.
Oh, no way!
Yeah.
I don't see.
BBC News.
Yeah, I don't see the word woke out in the wild that much. I feel like this is like a real confection of. Maybe it's filtering through. Maybe it's cutting through at last.
I mean, it is. You are right, Matt. It is a confection, but there are some people who've just bought into it wholesale, and they're like, "Yep, it's the woke mobs that are causing my life to be terrible, and everything I hate is the fault of the woke." And
that was it, though. I was thinking the combination of woke brigade seemed more like a commentariat thing, because just comments just say, "Oh, those woke SJWs" or whatever. Like the combination of brigade made me think someone's trying to be classy.
It's an interesting sort of comment, especially in the week when Ash Sarkar won her court battle against that hideous woman whose name I can't remember.
Reality has a place in any of these comments.
Yeah.
Julie Birchall.
Julie Birchall, thank you. Well, not thank you, but...
Regardless, you're welcome.
Her Twitter handle is @fagsandbooze, but with a Z.
Yeah.
Nice.
Isn't she like 60 years old or something as well? This is really bizarre.
All right, are you ready for the last one?
Go for it.
Hit me.
Okay, ready. I got to get myself ready for this one.
Ooh.
From the right to the left, there has been a condemnation of the cops' assault on the Everard Vigil. Yet from the same right to the same left, there was a widespread support over the past year for placing the population under something akin to house arrest and severely restricting our right to meet other people in public. Whether it was the Corbynista left crying for ever tighter clampdowns on what we were allowed to do, their chief criticism of Boris Johnson that he was never quite authoritarian enough, or the soft Tory set who have raged against COVIDiots and COVID denialists, by which they mean anyone who suggests there might be better alternatives to lockdown, there was a depressing consensus among political influencers about the need to suspend fundamental civil liberties in the name of keeping people safe from disease.
That
comment or commentary?
I think that's a comment. I think that's commentary. That was too long, almost. I think, but
well, you do get screens that long. But they're in the Guardian because all the Guardian commenters really want to be column.
I mean, it's just. I mean, assuming it is commentaria, because this is the kind of thing that they write where they just fundamentally don't understand anything at all whatsoever about anyone who's even vaguely left wing. They just assume that it's some straw man that they assemble out of whole cloth to to be up against, and but then it's going to end up being a comment. I'm going to look like a complete tit.
All right, so you're going comment.
I'm going commentariat yet.
Okay, commentariat.
Toby Young doesn't get columns anymore, does he?
Oh yes,
yes he does.
Self-published.
Yes, he does.
God.
Oh,
okay, then
sweet
yes,
summer
then.
child. No.
I had vague hope that, for some reason he'd stopped getting work, but maybe that's too much to hope for.
As much as he'd like you to believe that he'd stopped getting work, he still very much has it.
Yes, the traditional "I have been silenced" shouted from the hot headline column. Yeah. Well, then, commentariat. Then it's going to be.
I reckon commentariat as well. Definitely.
I think it's commentariat. I think it is Toby Young, but it might be Alison Pearson at the Spectator because it has that same fucking.
If I had to guess, I wanted to say Alison Pearson as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this one was a commentariat.
Yeah.
And it's Mr. Fivehead himself.
Brendan is back.
Brendan is back.
Double Brendan.
Once again, writing for Spite.
Oh my god, is that the last one?
That was the last one, yeah.
Wow. I did pretty good. Normally I'm terrible at that.
Thank you so much, Matt, for coming on and wasting an evening with us.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much. And good luck with everything.
Is there anything you want to plug as well while you're here?
Just cleanupgambling.com, and we had a chat briefly about before we started about Gamban, which is blocking software for people who get addicted to gambling and want to block access to gambling sites and apps, and that can be obtained for free through a pilot that we've got going with GamStop and GamCare called TalkBan Stop. And that can be accessed through talkbanstop.com. So, thanks. I know most people, when you say, have you got anything to plug, they say no. But that's two things. So thank you very much.
Cool. No, it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
All right.
Thanks very much.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to yet another episode of Podcasting as Praxis. And we will presumably be back next week, unless we get distracted by eggs again.
Fuck's sake.
You can't just throw that in at the end.
No milk. Anything else wrong?
No, let's just knock this on the fucking head before we.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.